Good evening, everyone. We're ready to begin tonight's City of Gardena regular City Council meeting for November 13th, 2018. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Madam Mayor, noting the presence of all council members.
Okay, thank you. Mr. City Attorney, is there anything to report from closed session?
No reportable action was taken.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Victor Gossin and Jennifer Ramirez. Immediately following that, if you can continue standing for the invocation, which will be led by the Reverend Juan C. Higuera.
To the Pledge of Allegiance.
Put your right hand over your heart. Face the flag. Ready, begin. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor, for inviting me. And also a reminder to everybody to keep praying for our fire department up north in California, about 12 major fires. Last time I heard over 14,000 firemen fighting, about 50 deaths, and a lot of people losing their homes and coming back to just find ashes. And keep them in prayer when we go to bed at night. I mean, keep them in prayer too for all these people that are suffering. And don't forget to pray for our mayor every day. Heavenly Father, Lord, which art in heaven, we thank you so very much for your love and for the opportunity that you gave us to come to you through your Son, Jesus Christ, to pray for this meeting, to pray for our mayor, so you give her wisdom to keep running this city. Lord, we don't know what the future holds for her, but we know that you hold our future. And we want to lift her up to your hands and to your presence, that you can continue to lead her in this job or work that you gave her. We also pray for our city, for every family that lives within our city limits, that you bless them, bless their jobs, their families, their children. But we also pray, Lord, that you protect our law enforcement with their chief. Protect them, Lord, because every day they go out of their houses to serve and to protect and to face a lot of dangers out there. We also, Lord, we thank you for them, for their service. We also ask you that you protect our fire department, all the city workers, all the councilmen here in this room, the people that came to this room. Lord, we put this meeting on your hands, that you bless. And thank you, Lord, for giving us the privilege to come and pray in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son. Amen and amen. Thank you, Mayor.
You may be seated. If I could have Victor and Jennifer come back to the front, please. So tonight's Pledge of Allegiance was led by Victor Gossin, who was in the 5th grade, and Jennifer Ramirez, who was also in the 5th grade. Both attend 135th Street Elementary School, whose principal is Dr. Pablo E. Osorio. Both Victor and Jennifer were chosen because they were excellent students and exemplary model citizens to represent 135th Street Elementary School. So we're going to begin tonight with Victor. Victor, would you like to say anything?
It was a great honor to be in present of all of you guys, and thank you guys so much for inviting me here.
Okay, well, thank you. And also, can you tell us who brought you here tonight? We'd like to just recognize them for bringing you as well.
My mom and my grandma.
Okay, raise your hand real quick. Okay, thank you for bringing them out. And Jennifer Ramirez, would you like to say anything as well?
Thank you for inviting me here.
Okay, well, thank you. And who brought you tonight?
My mom, my dad, and my sisters.
Where are they at? In the front here? All right, thank you as well. We appreciate you guys leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance and for being great students. And we look forward to you guys possibly coming back in the future as well. So thank you again. So Reverend Huguera, if you could please come back to the front as well, too. So tonight's invocation was led by the Reverend Juan C.
Higuera.
Thank
Higuera.
you. Thank you. Who is the pastor at Iglesia Bautista Biblica, which is located at 17120 South Normandy Avenue.
Right.
Pastor Higuera has served as pastor of Iglesia Bautista Biblica, a Spanish ministry of Bible Baptist Church, since March of 2015. Previously, he served as pastor of Iglesia Bautista Agua Viva in Long Beach, California. Pastor Higuera is a native of Mexico. He came to the United States at the age of 13 and grew up in Gardena. Graduated from Gardena High School and attended El Camino College. He also attended and graduated from AIC Theological Seminary in 1992 and went on to attend First Baptist College in Long Beach, graduating with a Bachelor's of Theological degree in 2013. He is involved in all aspects of church activities, including mission here and abroad, community outreach programs, and visitations wherever there's a need. Pastor Higuera is very happy and privileged to serve in the church and our community.
Amen.
Pastor, would you like to say anything?
I already did. I'm so grateful that you consider me to come and pray. It's an honor, and I wish you well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone give him a round of applause. So next on our agenda, we have our military veteran that we honored all of our council meetings. Tonight's veteran that was being honored was selected by myself, Mr. R.C. Morris. He couldn't be here tonight with us, but I think we have a picture of him as well while I read his bio. Mr. R.C. Morris completed his military service in the United States Army during World War II, beginning on April 1st, 1942, until he was honorably discharged on December 10th, 1945. He served as a member of the military police and was also with an anti-aircraft artillery gun unit. He was born in Dallas, Texas in 1918 and followed his military service, moved to California in 1947. Once in California, Mr. Morris got married in 1955 and enjoyed married life with his wife, Robbie, for 36 years until her passing in 1991. Lovingly known as RC, he has been described as a stable figure in his church, participating in weekly Bible studies, teaching Sunday school, serving on the Pastoral Advisory Board, and serving as both an elder and the president of the Elders Board for several years. RC is a Christian man who is always doing things to help people. He is an upstanding, decent man. Mr. Morris, also of note, is turned 100 years of age on August the 4th, and he is a longtime resident of Gardena. And I had the privilege of spending the afternoon with him at his birthday celebration. So this is a picture of Mr. Morris. Unfortunately, when we spoke with him this morning, he was not able to attend, but you know, hopefully he'll be able to, not hopefully, but he will receive his medal here that we are presenting to Mr. Morris, as well as probably see his picture on the corner of Redondo Beach Boulevard and Western. And just recently, I don't know why I hadn't noticed this before, but on Channel 3, we have pictures of all of our military veterans as we give them their recognition here. So again, I'd just like to, I'm happy that we were able to do this for Mr. Morris, who was possibly, I don't know for sure, but could be one of our oldest citizens here in the city of Gardena. So if he's watching this at home on TV, let's please just give him a round of applause. Okay, so next we are moving on to a certificate of recognition, which is being given to Zoraida Hernandez in appreciation of her service to the community as a tenant representative with the Gardena Rent Mediation Board. And as she comes forward here, I'm just going to read what the certificate says that she has already received. It says this certificate of recognition is being presented to Zoraida Hernandez and is an official acknowledgement and genuine appreciation of exemplary, dedicated community leadership and service as a member of the tenant representative on the Gardena Rent Mediation Board. So this certificate has been signed by the entire City Council, and we just want to tell you thank you so much for sitting on that board. Myself and Councilmember Henderson sat on that board for many years. It's not an easy board to sit on, and for those people who don't know about the Rent Mediation Board, you're dealing with landlords and tenants, a landlord who is going up on rent, a tenant who feels like their rent shouldn't be gone up on, and you have to sit in between the two and mediate that. So that takes a lot of patience and just good attitude. And so thank you for your time sitting on that board. If you'd like to say anything, just hit that little button right there. There you go. You're welcome to say something.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, in fact, it was a pleasure to serve on the board for 2 years. I was appointed and recommended by Councilman Ms. Medina, and it was quite an experience. And as you had mentioned, it could be a challenging, but yet pretty satisfying experience for all of the members, some who've been on the board for 30 years. I learned a lot from them. And I want to thank everyone for all the support that I received through those 2 years. It's a great city, and I'm very happy to be part of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next, we're going to move on to item number 4A3, and this is Measure A funding presentation. Tonight, this will be given by our city manager, Mr. Edward Medrano.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, the reason that we wanted to bring this presentation forward to the City Council is there's been a lot of requests and discussions about park improvements. Most notably, at the last council meeting, there were some directives to improve the tennis courts at Raleigh Park and some improvements to the audiovisual abilities in Nakaoka and the divider, et cetera. So we wanted to talk a little bit about where the city gets its funding for some of these projects, not all of them, but some of them. And so a brief presentation on Measure A. So prior to Measure A, there was what was called Prop A funds, which was received by the city of Gardena. Prop A is structured in a number of different ways. The city receives funding via competitive grants, and it's reimbursed for its maintenance and service costs resulting from grant-funded projects. Reimbursed meaning that the city has to pay for the improvements and maintenance first, and then it is reimbursed by the county. The sunset for Measure A was in fiscal year 2019, which was replaced by Prop A was replaced by Measure A, should I say. One thing we noticed that as we were going through Prop A funds is that the city hadn't applied for and had not had any approved projects within the last 5 years, which was an opportunity that resulted in losing approximately $1 million in funding to the city for the parks. Well, the good news is we identified that, and we're going to make every effort to see how much of that funding we can recoup. As you look on the bottom of this page, this is just a general outline of what we spent our money in the last 5 fiscal years. The vast majority of it was spent with annual maintenance and serving, which is the lowest threshold really for this type of funding. The only substantial project that was approved by Prop A funds was in 2015-16, which was the Mas Fukai playground equipment, which is really as a result of a project that started in 2010. As we move forward, Measure A replaced Prop A. And the LA County Safe, Clean Neighborhoods, Parks, and Beaches measure of 2016, Measure A, is a 1.5 cent per square foot parcel tax, which was approved by 75% of the voters in 2016. Prop A funding, Measure A funding replaced Prop A funding, and it is something that we definitely have to take full advantage of. This generates approximately $94 million per year for local parks, beaches, and open space areas. Measure A has no sunset clause as opposed to Prop A. Measure A allocation to the city is based on the population, the square foot, and park needs assessment. Allocation to the city can be accumulated up to 5 years, meaning we can stack our money if we have a big project for up to 5 years. So how is Measure A allocated? 15% of it is for maintenance and servicing. 35% is for Category 1, which is most cities qualified. 13% is for Category 2, which says the city must rank high or very high on the latest park needs assessment. And 42.8 is awarded through competitive grant processes. Gardena, the city of Gardena ranks high in the 2015 park needs assessment, which means we qualify for both 1 and 2 category funding, and then we need to do a park assessment every 10 years. With regards to the competitive grant program, one of the things that the city staff is going to focus on is being more diligent in applying for competitive grants to improve the conditions of our parks. It is estimated, based on Measure A allocation for the city of Gardena, based on the Category 1 and 2 funding, we are to receive about $403,000 per year, which if you accumulate that over the period of 5 years, it's approximately $2 million. How that is broken down is about $48,000 in annual maintenance and servicing. Measure A allocations for Category 1 is about $201,000, and then allocation for Category 2 is $153,000, and that's where you get your $403,000. So what does the city need to do? The city will conduct city parks assessment to identify improvement needs. Measure A can be used for various park projects, including several priority projects, and these is not a totally inclusive list, but these are some of the things that we believe are part of this program and should be part of this program, which is restroom rehab for several parks. I know that we have received complaints from various community members about the conditions of our park, most notably the condition of the restroom on Raleigh Park along Van Ness, which is in very bad shape, needs to be completely redone. Arthur Johnson Park building roof, Moss Fukai picnic shelters, the Vincent Bell Park picnic shelters, and the Vincent Bell Park baseball diamond rehab. Those are a list. These are going to be vetted through our staff, and they may be prioritized, and other things may take that place. The main emphasis I want to share with the City Council is not only do we have this Measure A funding available, but we have a 10-year capital improvement plan, and at the last council meeting I provided an update on where we are at on their capital improvements, specifically for our park programs, and we are behind on actuating some of those plans. Where's the good news? The good news is most recently General Services has taken the lead on being the department that is going to work with Recreation and Human Services to identify the projects, but they are the ones that are the engineers and the experts going out and soliciting the work to be done, managing the contracts, executing the contracts, and inspecting the work to ensure that we have full compliance with all of our requirements. And we're now lucky that we have a new principal engineer on board who's going to be tasked with monitoring that through fruition using his staff. So we believe that a lot of these projects that have been moving through the process slower will be significantly improved. It is our estimate that based on not only Measure A funding but other capital improvement fundings, it's our hope to get about $2 million worth of park improvements within the next 12 to 18 months. So the community should see a significant improvement. And yes, the tennis courts at Raleigh Park will be done. Yes, the improvements in Nakaoka will be done. And yes, we will be taking care of a lot of the bathrooms and other needs. We also continue to leverage with our community, developers in our community that do developments adjacent to our parks to ensure that they can contribute to enhancing the quality of our parks surrounding their developments. As is noted by the park improvements that occurred when we had the development near our old bus station and the improvements that were done at Freeman Park, the signs, the picnic shelters, the barbecues, the scoreboard, et cetera. So this is just an update for the City Council in light of the questions coming up about park improvements, and to let you know that we're diligently moving forward with ensuring that we get our maximum amount of use out of our dollars. And I'll be happy to answer any questions from the City Council.
Okay, well, thank you for that presentation. I think that's great as far as explaining how that works. Any questions from the council? Councilmember Kaskanian, then you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. City Manager, for this presentation. If we can go one slide back. Here we go. Is this only the park that needs improvement that is named over here? Any other parks, they don't need any improvements, or?
No, this is just things we can use Measure A. Remember, we have all of those other projects that are in our capital improvement program that we approved.
I see.
So these are projects we identified that we could use this money for, not all of the money that we have allocated for park improvements.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. City Manager. So with this funding here, this will then allow us to not have to spend money from our general fund because it will come from this grant funding as well as the capital improvement project. First question. And then with the second question, because we're not spending this money now from our general fund and we have more of that in our general fund, would that help us then change our balance sheet and improve our bond rating, although our bond rating is pretty good now, that we can start elevating ourselves a little bit?
Well, let's answer the first question is, yeah, anytime we can use grant money and not general fund money to make improvements in our community, it is definitely the wise approach to do that. So we will leverage every opportunity to use, whether it be Measure A or anything else, park and loof money, to not use money from our general fund. When you look at the bond rating, we do have a very solid bond rating. When they look at our balance sheet and our overall financial stability, those capital improvement plans have already been included in our budgets and our CAFR, so that's already been sort of factored in. I don't think that these will have a significant impact on that. Nonetheless, it's a great opportunity. It's good for our community to see that we're going to spend $2 million in our parks. I know that I hear from community members quite frequently about the need to enhance the quality of our parks, because they are used a lot, and we are in a very urban area, and we need to make the best use of our park system and really consider whether or not we have the ability to expand and add more parkland.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, thank you very much for the presentation. Okay, next we're going to move on to item number 4, which is the CalPERS unfunded liability presentation, and this will be given tonight by the Director of Admin Services, which is Mr. Clinton Osorio.
Mayor, members of the City Council, the issue of pension unfunded liability is something that I would say the vast majority of communities throughout California that are under contract with PERS are struggling with. A number of factors have added to the increased unfunded liability. And many of you have asked, and we have done study sessions on PERS, on what are we doing to address our unfunded liability, and what options did the city have. We are very fortunate in Gardena to have almost 43% of our general fund in reserve. And we have options, and we do take advantage of some options, most of which is prepaying as much as we can. But we need to look a little bit deeper on what are the potential things that we can do to start paying down some of this unfunded liability, because we are in a good cash position. So I've asked Director Osorio to do a presentation, and he is an expert in this field. So thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Sturda and members of the City Council. If you can recall, a few months ago, the City Manager and I prepared a presentation for you in both the Finance Committee and the study session The reason I'm back here again tonight is because CalPERS has released some new policy decisions that does affect us. We've factored in a few options that we might be able to take to better position ourselves in the future as far as our unfunded liability is concerned. Some of these slides are going to be familiar to you, so bear with me for a few minutes. So I wanted to give a brief history on where our pension is actually housed, and it's with CalPERS. It stands for the California Public Employees Retirement System, which is founded in 1933. There are currently 1,578 public agencies that belong in this pension, 1.9 million members. Of that, about 887,000 are active, 668,000 are retirees, and 370,000 are inactives, which are those are folks that are no longer working for CalPERS employers, but still have service credits with them. And the latest total fund market value is $326.4 billion. So how does our pension actually get funded? Where do the plan assets come from? Well, as is illustrated by this dollar, 61% of the funding comes from investment earnings. And I have a couple more slides later on that talks about investment earnings and the discount rates. 26 cents of every dollar comes from CalPERS employers, which is just like the city of Gardena. And then 13 cents of the dollar comes from CalPERS members, such as individuals. So more on this plan asset composition. Employee contribution is actually set by law, so we can't. It's set by law as far as a cap, so we can't arbitrarily just raise that. So that's pretty much set. The contributions is where most of the fluctuations come from. It is set by actuarial assumptions with actuarial studies, and it's set by the discount rates, affected directly by the discount rates. And we'll talk a little bit about discount rates and how it has changed over the past few years. And then, and as we noted, the investment earnings by definition is the market returns driven by the fund's investment portfolio. So more on this discount rate. I recently attended a CalPERS conference over in Palm Springs a couple of months ago. And the participation rate has doubled since CalPERS released this new decision they had in 2016 where they're reducing the discount rate from 7.5% to 7% over the next 3 years. Discount rate is, by definition, is the expected rate of return of your investments plus an inflation of around 2%. So your effective rate of return really is 5%. So what does it mean when CalPERS reduces the discount rate from say 7.5% to 7%? What it means is that they are projecting that in the long term, I'm talking 25, 30 years, it's no longer feasible for them to earn a return of 7.5%. That's why they're saying that we've got to change that and reduce it to 7% over the life of most of these plans, which is about 30 years. Some experts don't think that's even possible. They think that's too high. Only time will tell. Market conditions, et cetera, would determine that. At least when they did that, they did an incremental lowering of the discount rate of 3 years. That gives us the employers more time to prepare and fund the increasing in the rates of our contribution rates. There are some positive news from CalPERS. In December 2017, they voted, the board voted to keep the discount rate at 7% for the next 4 years, at least for the next 4 years will be a little bit stable. Beyond that, they've got to get another vote and see if there's a need to even lower that. Also, the CalPERS board voted to change all future amortizations from 30 years to 20 years. This does not affect our current unfunded liabilities that are currently being amortized over 30 years. This is just going forward. So where are we now? I'm not going to go through this whole slide line by line, but the thing that we can take away from this is that at least while the market is doing well, the funded ratio, which is number 5, is going the right direction. Remember, 100% would be your fully funded. So you are, you know, we're actually a little bit better off from 2016 by about 1%. On the bottom, you'll see that the UAL payment, or our payment for, this is just for the classic safety plan, is increasing a little bit year after year over the next 5 years. This is the same concept, but this is our classic miscellaneous plan. It's a little bit better funded because it's miscellaneous. 7.45% in 2016. It's better off in 2017 at 75.9%. And this is the PEPRA. Obviously, you know, there's not a whole lot of participation here, so your funded ratio is about 92.6. And it's, you know, the UAL payment is just in the, you know, thousands. So the question, a lot of folks ask a question in the forum, and we do get this a lot, is that, you know, if this costs so much and it's so hard to maintain, can we effectively leave CalPERS and, you know, start your own pension plan? The short answer is yes, you can, but it's very, very costly. Assuming that the, you know, they would effectively reduce your discount rate to 1.75% as soon as you tell them that we want out. And then, you know, they'll determine that your funded status is 35.1%. We're actually right now at 68, 69%. So they're going to discount that if you tell them that we're leaving. They're going to discount that on the present value of your assets. So they'll tell you that, okay, so you want to leave, so your market value of assets as of today is about $249 million. Then we're going to take the hypothetical termination liability, it's a big word, meaning what we owe, $660.9 million. And so you then would have to write a check for the unfunded termination liability of $411.6 million. So obviously, it is not feasible, it's not possible. No agency can do that. Only possibly agencies that are going under would be in this situation. So what are our options to address the ongoing pension pressures? One is to prepay. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit, and we're actually doing that right now, and or pay down the unfunded liability. Paying down unfunded liability just means that you are making extra payments above and beyond your minimum payment. B, restructure the amortization to lower the interest. This is either the hard or a soft fresh start. This, if you would think about it, is just be doing your mortgage, you know, all over again and going for a shorter term, and start funding a Section 115 pension trust. Remember, we already have a pension trust. I mean, I'm sorry, a 115 trust set up for GTrans. All we would actually have to do is fund the pension side, and we're pretty much set. All we need actually is just the funding side. And then D, all of the above. We can actually do all of them to relieve the pressures of the pension. So I said we're already started to make some headway here. What we're doing is making prepayments to CalPERS to have some savings. In 2017-18, we prepaid $5 million to save about $186.5. Now, that is something, the $5 million is something that we would have to pay anyway throughout the year. We're just paying it in July instead of, you know, breaking it down month after month. The result is that you're actually saving $186,000. So 2018-19 combined will be $6.1 million that we paid in July to save about $223,000. The other thing that we can do is restructure our current amortization from our previous, our older unfunded liabilities, our older bases. Our current amortization is 30 years, and total interest, if we paid that over 30 years, is $50.75 million. That's just the interest portion that you would have paid. Sample option 1 is to, and I just arbitrarily picked this number of years, 17 years, and the payments each year would increase about 2.75%, which is our payroll growth, with a total interest after paying it in 17 years would be $44.46 million, so a little bit of savings there. Sample option 2, same amount of years, but then you'd have a higher payment every year. Same payment every year, but it's a higher number. And your total interest that you would have paid in 17 years is $40.03 million. It's just a graph to show the three different options. Now, obviously, option 1, 0, you don't save anything. Option 2, you save $6.2 million, and then option 3, you actually save $10.7 million just by restructuring it and making it a 17-year payment. So we took a look at this new, I think you've seen this before, a report that shows the pressure of pension liability with cities. And it's a metric that you can measure by taking your pension and how it relates to your revenues. So obviously the name of the game here is not be all the way to rank number 1 or higher, because the higher the number, the higher the pension revenue ratio, the worse you are. Gardena is actually somewhere in the middle of the road, maybe even lower at 6.73% pension to revenue ratio, and our rank is 142, which is very, very good. We're flanked by Inglewood and Hawthorne, but as you can see on the bottom, they issued huge pension obligation bonds, and we don't. And that concludes my presentation. I'll take any questions if there's any.
Here, before there's some questions, I just wanted to add a couple things. So one of the reasons we want to do these presentations is, one, as you heard, we did this presentation for our Finance Committee. We did this in closed session. But I think it's also very important to keep our community informed and be as transparent as possible relative to the status of our pension obligations. And as you just noticed in the last, almost the last slide, we have some challenges, but we're not certainly as in dire straits as some other cities are relative to their total amount of pension liabilities related and in ratio to their payroll costs. A couple things that we have already done. The City Council, working with our unions, have increased employee contributions. The safety side employees pay 12% of their pension obligations, which is really among the highest in the South Bay. The miscellaneous employees pay 17%, and the PEPRA employees pay 15.25%, which is the highest in this region. That all helps, even though our PEPRA liability is low. When we talk about the issues of prepayment, I have discussed with the Finance Committee of looking at options or set-asides as we have developed benchmarks and say and identify any sources of income above a fixed number will go directly towards prepaying. That's one of the options Mr. Osorio talked about. We've looked at a fresh start option, but that does limit our city's options. If we do a fresh start, we're committed to doing that. It's almost like refinancing mortgage. From 30 to 15, you're required to make that 15-year payment, whereas you have a 30-year mortgage, you can make additional payments as you see fit and give yourself some flexibility. Everything is on the table to consider. Certainly, when we are in a better cash position, we have more options. But this is something that the city's council and future city council's legacy will depend on how we address this pension obligation. And the good thing is we're starting early. We're starting before we're in an area of distress, and we want to develop a comprehensive plan. This won't be the last time you hear about this, because in the future you will have to approve some type of long-term plan for pension liability. The fact that we prepay now is good. I think we can do more.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the presentation too, Clint, as well. In regards to, a couple questions. In regards to the fresh start option, did that take into consideration the revenues at today's level where they're kind of, I won't say flat, but where they're flat, or was that hoping revenues will go up in the future? Just curious to know.
Well, that, that takes into consideration our current level of revenue. I do want to say that the city manager alluded to that the Fresh Start has two different options. The hard Fresh Start, which is once you go and tell CalPERS, you know, I want to do a fresh start, a hard fresh start, they will re-amortize everything into whatever amortization method you want. That's not something that I'm advising at this point, because once you cross that line, there's this point of no return. You cannot go back. The soft refresh is, you can actually make it work to the penny and make it seem like it's a hard restart. But as long as you are, as long as we are, the city, very disciplined in making those payments in time and to the penny. Otherwise, I mean, yes, it's flexible, but then you're going to be extending it beyond the 17 years, and you're going to end up making more interest payments.
So in the event that revenues dip, then we kind of put ourselves in a bind versus kind of just where we are, where we're making it work, whether revenues fluctuate up or down or whatever.
Correct. If your obviously if your revenues dip, you know, depending on the economy, then with a soft refresh, you're not bound by CalPERS to make those hard. And we're talking about, I did a calculation on that, it's about $2 million more per year. So it's a significant amount of money. But as you can see, if you can make ends meet, make sacrifices to put into this plan, you saw that the reward is, you know, I mean, it's $10 million. I mean, that's something that, you know, it's not small amount of money anymore. I mean, that's over 17 years. That's a lot of money.
Sure, go ahead.
In regards to the other municipalities that were able to offer bonds to pay for their unfunded liability, which I would not be in support of here, I'm just curious, did anybody share any rationale as to how they were able to convey that as a good idea to their voters, or how did they advertise that, or were they advised to do that?
Well, the concept of pension obligation bonds, and the city manager can attest to this. I was in favor, sort of, before, and then I did a little bit more research and more research. Is that, you know, when you issue pension obligation bonds, you are essentially telling the public, and you're telling yourself that, look, I'm going to beat the market. You're gonna win 100%. That you're gonna beat the market, and you're gonna be able to make the bond payments and be able to be solvent with CalPERS. A lot of times that doesn't happen like that. I mean, what ends up happening is that the market tanks. So now, what you thought that you were going to be fully funded, 100% funded with CalPERS, because you paid all that money with them, then you owe this bond. Now all of a sudden, you know, your investment is not coming in the way you thought it would be. CalPERS, as you can see, once the market tanks, their investments are susceptible to the losses as well. So now it's a twofold thing. Now you have a bond payment, and now you have an unfunded liability again, because remember, there's only three sources: employees, employers, and then your investment returns. So investment returns, which is 60-something%, tanks. Where do you think that's gonna? Where would they get that extra payment? It's gonna come from the cities.
So in regards to that, when those cities did that, did they then turn over that fiduciary responsibility of investment to a third party, or were they trying to take on that responsibility themselves and do their own investment and portfolio management?
So how the bond works is that you're borrowing money essentially. So you agree to a 30-year bond at X payment, right? So you're still making your bond payment just like if we would have a COPS a bond. So you're making bond payment, and then You then turn that money over and tell CalPERS, okay, here is my unfunded liability. I am now fully funded. I'm giving you the money. You invest it for me. So that's essentially what they did, is they gave it to CalPERS. CalPERS does the investments, and there's a little bit of a controversy actually with CalPERS as far as how they invest their funds lately. They're under pressure from certain political groups, and then they said, we will not invest in non-green securities. So I mean, you're locked out from anything that's a little bit tobacco. You can't buy stocks from Philip Morris, for instance. It's got to be something that's very palatable. Well, they're trustees of that the fund. They're supposed to be they're in the business of making money, but then they're selectively picking off whatever they want to invest in. So they're not exactly getting the best return for their money.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you again for the presentation. I think we're
Thank you.
a lot more understanding of this now. Okay, we're going to move on to, where are we? Okay, to proclamations. The next one is the 2018 Small Business Saturday. So on November 24th, the City of Gardena has always celebrated and supported our local small businesses and acknowledged the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, there are 30.2 million small businesses in America, which represents 99.7% of all businesses in the U.S. who have employees. Small businesses have been responsible for 65.9% of net new jobs created from the year 2000 to 2017. Reports show that the U.S. consumers agree that small businesses contribute positively by supplying jobs and generating tax revenue, and consumers also agree that small businesses are crucial to the overall economic health of the United States. So the City of Gardena acknowledges that our local businesses create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods. So there are advocacy groups, including the Small Business Saturday Coalition, the Women's Impact Public Policy, WIP, as well as other public and private organizations across the country who annually endorse the Saturday after Thanksgiving Day as Small Business Saturday. So in support of this annual observance, the City of Gardena is hereby pleased to proclaim Saturday, November 24th as 2018 Small Business Saturday, and urge Gardena citizens as well as citizens in the communities across the nation to support their local small business and merchants, not only on Small Business Saturday, but throughout the entire year. So shop small. Next, we're going to move on to appointments. Does any member of the council have any appointments to be made to any commissions, committees, boards, councils at this time? If not, we're going to move on to our consent calendar. Does any member of the council have any items that they would like to discuss separately? If not, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar as is?
So moved. Second.
Okay, thank you. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Medina and a second by Councilmember Kaskanian. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Medina,
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next, we're going to move on to Planning and Environmental Quality Commission action sheet. Just one thing I'd like to note, at their November 6th meeting, they had a study session on the role and responsibility of a planning commissioner and a brief overview of relevant laws. So that's what they went over at the last meeting. So next, we're going to move on to oral communications. Tonight, we have two speakers, Ms. Kimberly Hatton and Benjamin Butler. You guys can come forward. Just want to remind all of our speakers that you are limited to 3 minutes unless extended by myself. When the yellow light comes on, it alerts you that your 2 minutes are up, and when the red light comes on, it will alert you that your 3 minutes are over. So I appreciate your cooperation in advance. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Serta, City Council, and residents of Gardena. I'm Kimberly Hatton, board member at Sarah High School, and I'm pleased to present you news and updates from our school. Are you ready to be a Cavalier? We have high school placement exam preparatory course on November 27th and 29th from 4 to 6 p.m. And then on December 5th, we are having our second open house from 6:30 to 8 p.m. On January 5th, we are administering our high school placement exam at 9 a.m. And then following on the 16th, we're hosting a tuition and financial aid workshop from 6 to 7. So we hope that all will come and participate so you can be our future Cavaliers. Our fall play is called Annie Play Will Do. It is Friday, November 30th and Saturday, December 1st at 7 p.m. and Sunday, December 2nd at 2 p.m. We thank you for your time for these announcements, and on behalf of our principal, Mr. Guzman, peace and blessings to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Benjamin Butler.
Isn't it kind of cold in here?
It is.
Yeah, could use some heat. My name is Benjamin Butler. I live at 2812 West 146th Street, and I want to address the Honorable Mayor and members of the council. My wife fell down walking around the sidewalk around our block, and I thought it was very funny. That was about 6 months ago. Now I fell down, and I come up with a backache. And I look down, and there's a lot of cracks in the sidewalks around our block. The sidewalks some of them are broken, and I'm hobbling with this walker here. I'm not doing too good. So I'm here to ask if the council can get those sidewalks repaired. And it's very hard to move this walker, and every 4 or 5 feet you run into a crack, and your whole body is jogged. You know, you're not. I can feel it. My lower back and my upper thighs are really hurting, and I'm under doctor's care. And well, it would be a lot easier to if the sidewalks were clean. And can it get done?
We can actually take care of that. You can speak with Mr. Joe Cruz in the back. If you turn around, Joe will hold his hand up, and as you're walking back, and give him your address, and we can address those issues.
Well, I hope so.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Don't
Thank you.
forget the heat now.
I won't. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to item number 8B1. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, Agenda number 8B1 is ordinance number 1797, amended in Chapter 8.20 of the Gardena Municipal Code relating to solid waste and recycling collection and disposal, and amending Section 18.43130 relating to the refuse enclosures. This was introduced by Councilman Medina. The staff recommends the City Council adopt Ordinance 1797, which amends the Chapter 8.20 of the Municipal Code as referenced above. The ordinance was introduced by a council meeting at the October 23rd meeting. What this chapter does makes amendments to comply with new restrictions on city related to solid waste and recyclable collection and disposal that have been imposed by CalRecycle, a state regulatory agency. The required diversion requirements for construction and demolition waste are not included in Part 11 of the California Building Standards Code, also known as Cal Green. Ordinance number 1797 will bring the city's solid waste and recycling codes up to date to reflect the new state requirements. Language related to the annexation area, which is old and was eliminated, and that is because it is no longer required because the annexation area has long been expired. There's no fiscal impact. It is required to adopt Ordinance 1797, which was initially introduced October 23rd.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments at this time? If not, can I get a motion to adopt Ordinance number 1797?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Medina and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Medina,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next up is item number 8C1.
Mayor, Serta, members of the City Council, agenda number 8C1 is an amendment to a 5-year agreement with Prudential Overall Supply in an amount of not to exceed $170,000. If you remember, we entered into an agreement with Prudential earlier this year for a long-term agreement to provide uniforms, towels, and other services. This is a modification to this agreement, which will extend this agreement to other scopes of services. The amendment supplies uniforms and laundry services for general services, G-Trans, and custodial staff, and now will provide rags, mops, and safety mats for various city departments. After the original agreement, the staff learned of the additional cost savings related to the procurement of custodial items, which are currently being purchased by a variety of vendors, which are also purchased through Prudential. Prudential will monitor the inventory of these items. The city needs to deliver the items and restock as necessary. We're spending a lot of staff time going out to bid for a number of variety of different items used by custodial staff that could be all coordinated through the extension of or the addition of this agreement. The city will not realize the cost savings of the NEPA pricing, but the soft cost savings, because city staff will no longer be responsible for shopping, is significant. One of the things that the city is striving to do is to increase our cooperative procurement process. In fact, today I had a discussion today with Mr. Osorio and Mr. Beeman about continuing to move our city towards more of a cooperative procurement process where all cities' departments are aligned and ordering the same, and hopefully saving money through a increased cooperative process and scope. The decentralization of procurement occurred many, many years ago, and it takes a long time to re-centralize that, but we are slowly moving forward towards doing that, and this is another great step forward to doing that. The fiscal impact is about $170,000 for the 5-year period of this agreement. The general fund expense is $24,611. The enterprise is responsible for $9,389 annually. What's required is to approve the amendment to the agreement.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments? If not, can I get a motion to approve the amendment to the agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Henderson and a second by Councilmember Kaskanian. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Medina,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. So before we move on to item number 8D1, there was a last-minute add-on that was brought to our attention that we needed to take immediate action on, and this matter came up after the posting of the agenda. So this is item number 8C2, and we need to add this to the agenda. So I'd like to take up a motion to add this item to the agenda, and I would need for my colleagues to, if they agree to that, to.
Mayor, if I could, I need
sorry, go
to
ahead.
do a little explanation on to the purpose of this. Yeah. Yeah, so first we have to make a finding that that this item came to the City Council after the published agenda. What I want the City Council to know and the community to know that we only have one meeting in November and only one in December. So as a result, trying to cram a lot of agenda items towards the end of the year is very difficult. The city was notified by the ICMA, which provides 457 services to our employees. Today, in fact, the meeting occurred that we are expanding that service, and we have been planning to expand that services to provide 401A services, which is an ICMA money purchase retirement plan. But we also found out today that the City Council does need to approve this by resolution. Because we had an agreement with ICMA, we believed it was just something that we could execute administratively, adding on to the original ICMA contract, but that was not the case. So as a result, this came to the city's attention today, and this is an urgent issue because without it, we will not be able to take advantage of the 2018 contributions. The City Council needs to make a finding that there is a need for immediate action, that the matter came to the city's attention after posting of the agenda, and add 8C2 to the agenda for consideration of resolution number 6352, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gardena related to money purchase plan. The vote of not less than 2/3 of the council members is required to move to the next step, which is to talk about the agenda item.
Okay, okay, there was a motion that was made by Councilmember Tanaka so that we could talk about this item. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka and a second by Councilmember Medina. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka.
Yes.
Councilmember Medina.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes, okay, now we can talk about item number 8C2.
Thank you, Mayor Serta, members of the City Council. This is actually a pretty simple item, and I think it probably took longer than to talk about why the exception. What this is adding is an additional opportunity for employees to take advantage of another investment option under the ICMA contract. The city has, for many, many years, provided the city employees the option of investing in a 457 plan. This expands that to a 401A plan. There is no fiscal impact to the city. All these plans are funded by employee contributions, not city contributions. So the city was required to pass resolution number 6352, which allows us to enter to the agreement to expand the ICMA services with the City of Gardena to include a 401A plan. In the future, I also will be bringing to the City Council another item similar to this, although we cannot get it done this year, is a 524 plan, which is a educational savings plan that is sponsored and administered by the state of California to provide another investment option for our members to pay for their kids' education. So what is required is the City Council to approve resolution number 6352, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gardena related to the authorization to start a money purchase plan with ICMA.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments at this time? Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, in regards to the oversight of this fund, who do the employees speak with if they have some concerns about what they think their revenue should be or anything like that?
ICMA is the provider of all services related to this financial vehicle, just like they are for the 457 plan. Each employee has its own account. They can log in. They can make their own investment decisions. They also can select model investment portfolios, and if they'd like, they can also select the managed portfolios, which means they'll actively manage the programs for the employees.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. If not, can I get a motion to
So moved.
to authorize to have a money purchasing plan? I'm sorry, that was made by Mayor Pro Tem and second by Councilmember Henderson. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka and a second by Councilmember Henderson. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Medina.
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next up is item number 8D1.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda number 8D1 is approval of professional service agreement with SOMAS for design, construction management, and inspection services for Normandy Avenue Street Improvement Plan, which is job number 920, in the amount of $117,000. The design of this project will include installation of curbs, ramps, gutters, sidewalks, trees, and overlay of approximately 370,000 square feet of pavement with asphalt rubber hot mix to repair deteriorated streets. The project also includes management and inspection to ensure all the work is done pursuant to the plans and specifications. SOMAS is a civil engineer, design, and construction management firm with 73 years of experience and has provided design services to the city for improvement projects through competitive bidding and has performed well in the duties and responsibilities. SOMAS will be required to meet all applicable city contracting requirements. SOMAS will augment the capacity of the Public Works Engineering Division of the General Services Department, and they will be responsible for the design, construction management, and inspection of this project. This is not an award of that project. It is for design and management services. The amount is $117,000, $190. It is not funded by general fund. It is funded by Prop C funds. What is required is the approval of the professional service agreement with SOMAS.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, Councilmember Medina.
With regards to Normandy Avenue, it's from where south and where north?
So there's a map, I think, in the back. The Normandy Avenue street improvement is from Redondo Beach Boulevard to Artesia.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Questions, comments? No? Okay. If not, then can I get a motion to approve the professional service agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Cascanian and a second by Councilmember Medina. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Medina,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next we're going to move on to council directives. So at this time, does any member of the council have any directives? Councilmember Cascanian?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, I would like to find out, first of all, I would like to congratulate all the candidates that they won the race, but they left behind their signs and it's all over the city and nobody's removing them. So who should we talk to regarding this, or what's the step we can take?
Councilman Cascanian, you talked to the right person. We'll make sure code enforcement gets out there and addresses those issues with the candidates, and if they are not responsive, we will take down the signs as we have in the past.
Thank you.
Councilmember Henderson?
A quick question, Mr. City Manager, in regards to the street construction on Crenshaw Boulevard from Rosecrans to Redondo Beach. Do we have an approximate time frame for that?
That project was just awarded, I think, the last council meeting or the previous one. Probably will not start till the beginning of next year. Yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Medina?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regards to all the construction that was done on 157th Street, is there a timeline where they'll come in and actually clean it up to the way it was originally? Because it got paved. Ironically enough, after it got paved, then they started tearing up the water pipes.
Yeah, that is a consistent problem that we've had over the years. Depending on when the street was repaired, there's certain requirements that the utilities have to meet. So if the roadway is very new, they're going to have to put that roadway back into the original condition, and then it kind of amortizes over how long it's been since it's been replaced. Many of these improvements are T-cuts in the roadway where they'll make a kind of a T-cut, they'll put in the new line, then they'll pave it over, and then that's temporary, and then they later go back and completely finish it depending on what level of repair they have to do. Last year, if you recall, they did a lot of repairs, but it was usually, maybe 3 or 4 feet to cover the T-cuts, and it looked like stripes down our streets. I know community was unhappy with that, so the city embarked on a slurry program for aesthetics to make the streets look better. We do have a high roadway index, which is great. It did drop a little bit, partly because of so much infrastructure repair that is occurring throughout the community. What is really important, and I know that our staff is working diligently on, is to have more coordination meetings, because if we're going to tear up the street and they're going to need to tear up the street, it'd be great to tear it up just one time and put it back in the best condition as possible. So I know Director Cruz has been working diligently on ensuring that we try to do that more. For example, in terms of the Crenshaw project, this Normandy project, that we get all of the key utilities that may be affecting our streets to know we're moving forward with these projects. These are the timelines. If you need to do something, this is the time to do it so we can repair the street well one time.
Thank you.
Okay, any other directives, comments? I have one. I'd like to see if there's a way that we can remind citizens that they can't just dump their unwanted furniture like in front of their house. It seems like, I know this has been a problem that's been ongoing, and I feel really sorry for our code enforcement because I know they're out there working, but over the past, let's just say 2.5 weeks, I noticed a trend just in my neighborhood. One neighbor put out a dishwasher in front of her house thinking that somebody would pick it up. 2 days later, I see another neighbor with a Bowflex. Then I see a couch, a table, and it's like one neighbor has seen another one, and it's just going on and on. I think Friday night I posted 7 things on Gardena Direct, and since that time it's been another 3 or 4. But these aren't just people dumping things outside of a business, it's in front of their homes. So if there's a way that we can just kind of reiterate again to the community that if you have these big items that you want to get rid of, contact Waste Resources versus just leaving them outside, waiting for somebody to come by and pick them up or pick through your old trash, maybe through our Channel 3, I don't know, maybe even something in the paper or something like that, just because I think from time to time we just have to keep reminding people that you can't do this. So,
Yes, Mayor, that's a very important problem that we have, and it sort of ebbs and flows. But one of the things is education, as you mentioned, and educating our community that they have bulk item pickup available. I wish more people would take advantage of them. Then there's also the enforcement arm, and that is by using Gardena Direct, we track these illegal dumping incidents, and we have been working more diligently with the property owners, holding them accountable, because there are some spots throughout Gardena, if you look at the maps that are generated by Gardena Direct, that are the source of a disproportionate amount of illegal dumping. And we are constantly monitoring that. I know Ms. Santina is constantly on code enforcement about repeat dumping locations and trying to track that back to other areas. And we had some times where we've had an incident that occurred off Electric Street where construction material was dumped. And we were able to kind of find out who that was and work our way back. But it was not that long ago where even that vacant lot next to Perry, we had a complete huge dump of a bunch of construction material, and we had to get that cleaned up. And we had to work with the property owners, because when it's on private property, it's their responsibility. Also working with owners to notify their renters that, hey, you are responsible for getting rid of your trash. This is not, the Parkway is not a dump, and we don't provide free trash pickup. We pick up way more trash than we should be. And a lot of times we don't want to do it because it should be the responsibility, but we are very sensitive to the aesthetics of our community, and our right-of-way crew does amazing work going out there doing that. So duly noted, and we will do our best to follow up on that, both on the education and enforcement side.
Okay, great, thank you. So if there are no more directives, we're going to move on to the city manager remarks regarding the directives.
Just a couple comments. Do you have an additional memo in there for additional adjournments? I want to remind you that, Mayor. The study session that was discussed and proposed by City Council to inform our community is being held this week on Thursday, and it's at 6:30 p.m. here. We're going to be discussing with the community about all the legal procedural aspects of developments and how they occur. I think it's very important for our community to understand what responsibilities the city has, what legal requirements we have, and then just to take questions. I know that we have also come up with some solutions to try to provide more notification to our communities about development, so I think they will find very helpful. On 12/18, we're proposing a study session on economic development. We have recently obtained all our data and our gap analysis about what businesses we're trying to look at and what development opportunities we have. So we'll ask the council to consider having a study session. It's our only council meeting in December, maybe starting at 6 o'clock and having that for a little bit of time just in case we need a closed session, and then working through that. So if the council can direct me, and if it's okay with them, to have a study session on that date, Mayor. Tomorrow there is a Bureau of Gaming public meeting being held in Los Angeles near LAX at 9 o'clock. This is an important meeting. I know a couple members from our city council, all of our directors, and several key staff members are going to will be attending, and to talk about the potential impacts for changing of the gaming laws and the impacts to the city. We also understand that there's going to be a large number of employees from the Hustler and Lucky Lady. We're the only city in LA County that has 2 casinos, and impacts. These changes have significant impacts to our community and our general fund. We are working on a program to replace the old signs at our parks and possibly enhance with a new electronic billboard in front of our city hall to provide more opportunities to provide information to our community. The signs at the parks have to be manually updated, and the technology has certainly increased where we could probably update it from here constantly. We get a lot of use of the Honda sign, and we can get more use of some other city-owned signs in the future, and the cost has significantly reduced because of technology. And with that, that's all I have to report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to move on to our council remarks. We're going to begin tonight with Mayor Pro Tem Rodney Tanaka.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. So since our last meeting, there were a lot of things that we all attended. The one thing, let's see, we went to the Aldi new store opening, which used to be Smart and Final. If you haven't been there, try it. It's a very unique place, and I think you'll enjoy it. Went to the grand opening of the community closet on Gardena Boulevard, which is a part of our, what is it? Of the part of the chamber. It's right next door, so if you haven't been in there, there's a lot of stuff in there, especially for people that can't afford and are referred to get jobs and stuff, and they need clothes. It's a great place to go. Go try it out. Saturday night, I was really pleased that I was invited to go to the Nisei Singles dance at the Nakaoka, where they graciously donated $1,500 for the Nakaoka Center upgrade. So we thank them very much for that generous donation that they made. Let's see, we went to, I went to, for those that know, retired Captain Goebel, that was a member of our police department. His son passed away at 45 years old, and I was fortunate to attend the funeral, which was in Lake Forest, but it was a very nice service. Let's see, veterans, on Sunday we went to the Elks Lodge where they fed vets. It was a great turnout, and I thank the council members that were there to celebrate that. And then we walked across the street and we had Veterans Day sponsored by, I think it was the Nisei Post 1961 that they do every year, and that was a very nice turnout also. Joe, thank you for the lights at Rush Gym on LaSalle. It is so bright there at night now. It's it's really nice for the people that go out there and play basketball and use the gym. And lastly, I know he's probably on the agenda tonight as closing, but we lost Les Phillips, who was our Park and Recreation director here for many, many years, professional baseball player, just a really great guy. And his he passed away, and his daughters had the memorial this past Saturday. So that ends my report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next is Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Because the hour is long, I won't take up much of your time. So folks that know, we almost all go all to the same places, so I won't mention that. I will mention the, I did get invited to the City of Carson's Larry Itliong Day. He led the Filipino farmers' labor movement. He worked along Cesar Chavez. So it was a great celebration over in the city of Carson. I also went to the National League of Cities collaboration with First 5 LA to talk about how cities can give children a good start in the community and work with families to be more productive in the community and the city's role in that. I also attended that evening the National League of Cities Route 50 Innovative City Awards. And there were some pretty interesting awards in regards to some of the things that cities do innovatively. I think there's some of the things that they were missing that I know we do, so I'll speak to our city manager about that so we can start coming away with the hardware and everything. But there were some really interesting presentations. I also work with South Bay Council of Governments regarding the broadband study, so that's moving forward. And as my colleague said, Mayor Pro Tem, Elks Lodge breakfast was excellent. That was my very first one. Omelets, the bacon was crispy, like I like it. It was great. And then we walked across the street to the veterans presentation. Madam Mayor, so ends my report.
Okay. Sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interject this, but I'm really proud that when he talks about the Elks, I think this is the first time ever in the history of our city, every member of this council belongs to the Elks Lodge.
Yeah, good point.
We're all there, not at the same time. And we're not there at the same time.
Next is Councilmember Medina.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I'm not going to repeat it. We all attended all the things that were mentioned earlier. The only thing that they didn't attend was the giving out of the birthday cakes to the convalescent homes that I do every month. And the seniors really enjoyed it. And whatever, some special cakes for Christmas that we give out not only to the convalescent homes, but also to the City of Gardina's Senior Citizens Bureau. And so far, nothing's been mentioned about Yo Way sandwiches, but since I'm a connoisseur, and the definition of a connoisseur is when you have a bag of potato chips and you shake the bottom up and then go, and you know that you're a connoisseur after that. So we all had great sandwiches at Yo Way, which is on 182nd and Vermont. And if you haven't tried it, try it. It's don't plan on eating after that. It'll fill you up for the whole day. And everything else we've all mentioned. And in case we don't meet by that time, which I think we will, early happy Thanksgiving. Okay, happy Thanksgiving anyway.
That's your report?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Next up for myself, since the last council meeting, I attended a banquet for the Pregnancy Help Center of Torrance. And this is an organization that helps women who find themselves to be pregnant and want to have some options other than getting rid of their pregnancy, helping them out, finding options for them or adoptive families and so on. And anyway, I attended this event here. This was the second year I've attended. Great turnout, probably about 700 to 800 people there, all people supporting the organization and mentioning some of the challenges that they've gone through over the years of trying to keep their doors open. So I was happy that I was invited back again this year to attend an event like that and to also let our young people know that you do have some options. Also, since the last council meeting, I attended a CHP fire recognition where one of our firemen from Station 158 right here next door was recognized for helping out a CHP officer as he was trying to arrest someone on the freeway. Unfortunately, the criminal or suspect was kind of getting the better end of the officer, and one of our firemen, Elliot Hoffman, assisted in helping him detain this gentleman and on the freeway. So he was recognized at a meeting at one of the fire stations, and from the CHP as well as the fire department for helping and assisting the police out. Also, I attended graveside services for one of our residents here, Mr. Bill LeBeau. I also attended the grand opening for Yo Way Sandwich Shop and also the grand opening for Aldi's grocery store. And one of the things I just want to note about Aldi's, I had the opportunity to go in and do a tour after the grand opening, and the manager mentioned that in the middle of their store, they have this one section that every single week the items change. So if you go in there this week, they may have thermoses on sale or electric blankets. Next week, it'll be something completely different, and these items are priced at a very low discounted price. So it kind of gives you a reason to go in there every single week. So I just thought I would mention that to everybody. Really neat stuff in that store going on. I really like their concept. A little bit different when it comes to bagging your groceries. The cashiers sit down as they're checking you out, which I've never seen that before. And so if you have the opportunity, definitely go in there and check out Aldi's. On that same day, I attended the 23rd Annual SWIB Awards ceremony. And for those of you who don't know, SWIB is our South Bay Workforce Investment Board, and they help people find jobs. At the end of all of their banquets, they have this one portion where they have all various residents come up and talk about their schooling that they went through the SWIB and the great jobs that they received, how they were retrained, how they were 1 minute they were unemployed, the next minute they went through SWIB's training, and now they have jobs or careers now where they're making 50, 70, and some as much as 130,000 a year. So it was great to attend a banquet that SWIB has, because we are affiliated with SWIB. We have their one-stop facility here in Gardena, and it was just good to know that an organization that we're part of helps people change their lives by giving them great jobs. Also, I attended the the CERT graduation class of this past class in November, and I'm happy to announce that Chief Kane graduated with the class. Thank you for attending the class and being there. It's three days of being there for 8 hours, so thank you for that. He was great right there with his notebook and all, so we appreciate that. I'm hoping to get a couple of more members in CERT as well. So also I attended the ethics training, and then on that following day I attended Environmental Charter Middle School, where the students were given a grant from Lowe's and from the Nature's Conservatory. They were given over 160 plants to plant at their school, and the kids had projects where they had been planning for many months on how they were going to plant the plants at the school, whether it was going to be near the offices, whether they were going to hang them on the fences, just all different really neat designs. The students were very excited about this, so we kind of kicked it off with an initial ceremony, and while the kids went to work, they had the entire day, all last Friday, to plant the plants and just build all sorts of just creative little apparatuses with the plants that Lowe's had designed for them. And then also later on that day, I attended Coffee with a Cop, and I want to thank the PD for having that. And then on the next day, I attended the Renee Napier Making a Difference Award ceremony, where she awarded awards to various, different military groups, Navy, Army, and I know I'm going to forget these, Navy, Army, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard, also Gardena PD, as well as our Gardena Carson YMCA. So they gave them all awards for just making a difference in the lives of so many people by protecting people and having programs for our young people as well. So the chief was there for that, as well as members from the Gardena Carson YMCA. So thank you for attending that on a Saturday. I also attended the Elks Veterans Breakfast on Sunday, as well as the 49th Annual Veterans Day ceremony. And I just want to thank our Parks and Recreation for doing a really great job with this year's ceremony. I thought this year's was probably maybe one of the nicest one, the most moving one ever. So thank you again for doing that. And then lastly, I'd just like to just give one more shout out to Chief Kang for allowing some of our police officers to help in the valley with the fires as they were trying to evacuate some of the people from there. So thank you, because I know they could probably use all the assistance they can get up there, as well as I believe we have firemen from both of our stations, 158 and 159 there. So just want to say thank you to all of those who can help out as well. And that ends my report. Next is Councilmember Kaskanian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our last meeting, I attend the same place that we all went. Aldi's grand opening, Your Way's grand opening. I attended Gardena Sister City fundraising tamales dinner. It was a great event. They sold out on tamales, so it was delicious. Congratulations, Sister City. I attended the Police Foundation meeting, and I just want to remind Gardena graduate from high school that there is a scholarship available for all the graduate, and for more information they can go on Gardena Police Foundation Facebook page, and they can get the detailed information, and even they can download the application. I also attended the Veterans Day breakfast at Elks Lodge, and after that at Nakoka Center for the 9th annual celebration. What else? That's pretty much it. And I would like to thank all the firefighters, law enforcement, and everybody that they are fighting the fire at Woolsey's fire. My prayers to all the firefighters and the law enforcement. And thank you, Gardena Police Department, for their support and They you send Chief Kang officers over there for to protect the residents or their properties from the looters. And Madam Mayor, I would like to adjourn the meeting in a memory of Charles, or known as Chaz Goebel, who passed away last week, our former Captain Chuck Goebel's son, at age 45. And that's end my report.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on to announcements, I just want to check with all of my colleagues to see, can all of you attend the December 18th meeting? Sure. You can? Yes? Okay. I'm sorry?
Mayor, it'd be a study session starting at 6, and we'd go to closed session at 7 if needed.
Okay, so what we're proposing. Okay, so what's going to happen here is we're not going to have a meeting on the second meeting in November, and instead of having our meeting on December the 11th, we're looking to move this to December the 18th instead. So that's why I just want to make sure this is in lieu of the second Tuesday. We'll have it at the third Tuesday.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, this is off schedule. It's not regular scheduled meeting because we wanted to try to strategically, because we're not having a second meeting in November. We're only having one in December, putting it right in the middle to allow staff to get all of their year-end agenda items handled, because we won't have another meeting until after the new year. So it'll be a December 18th special meeting.
How about the commission? They have no meeting that day? They're usually the third week.
Yeah, we have scheduled around that.
Okay, so all of you guys are good for that? They did? Okay. Okay, so let's, next we're going to have announcements. It was mentioned earlier, but just want to remind everybody that we have our Development Standards Community Forum that will be this coming Thursday here in the council chambers from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And next we're going to move on to our remembrances. So tonight we're going to adjourn in memory of Mr. Leslie Les Phillips, who was 88 years of age, and the former director of the City of Gardena Recreation and Human Services Department, who retired in 1994 after 35 years of service. We're also going to adjourn in memory of Mr. Jong Yul J.U., who was 70 years old and the beloved father of transit administrative analyst Ing Kung Rachel Koo of the City of Gardena Transportation Department. We're also going to adjourn in memory of Ms. Danielle Bell, who was 29 years old, and the beloved daughter of Gardena resident Mr. Derek Bell, Sr., and Mrs. Donetta Bell. Mrs. Bell is a family child care provider with the City of Gardena Human Services Department. We're also going to adjourn in memory of Mr. Charles Chaz Global, who passed away at the age of 45. And also we're going to be adjourning in memory of all of those who lost their lives as a result of the mass shooting on the evening of Wednesday, November 7, 2018, including Ventura County Sheriff's Department Sergeant Ron Halis and the employees and patrons of the Borderline Bar in Thousand Oaks. So at this time, as I mentioned just a few moments ago, we are going to be canceling the November 27, 2018 City Council meeting, which is normally our second meeting in November. And we'll be rescheduling our December 11th meeting to Tuesday, December the 18th, 2018 at 6. We're going to begin at 6 o'clock with the study session. Okay? So with that being said, we are adjourned.